Like I want to talk about Tu B'eShvat. I'll get to Tu B'eShvat, because it is Tu B'eShvat. But just driving here, story somehow profoundly popped into my mind, and I like to share stories that just pop into my mind. And I'm going to build everything I want to say for the next few minutes around the story. Um, and the story was a number of years ago. I spoke in London. I was invited to I forgot what it's even called. That this big convention in London of rabbis and teachers, and but there was maybe 1,000 people. And the main speaker wasn't me. I was the main speaker was Rabbi Sachs, Alav Shalom, and the other main speaker was Rabbi Wein, who I had the honor of following him in his shul. I was the rabbi of that shul, and there was me. That was the three speakers, and they had it was kind of like a executive rabbi room for the speakers. Like in show business they call it the green room. I don't know why it's called the green room, but wasn't green, but they called it the green room. That's the I guess that's where you're supposed to prepare your thoughts and calm down and eat and all kinds of things. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm talking with Rabbi Sachs, Rabbi Wein. Rabbi Sachs was a fascinating man, as is Rabbi Wein. But talking about Rabbi Sachs. So somebody came and introduced him. I'll tell you how long ago this was. I think 2004. That's what I'm talking about. And it was right to help me with my history. It was right after the tsunami. Um, 2004, sounds right. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that far back. That's what it was. It was right after, maybe it was 2005, something like that. And somebody came and introduced this young girl, 16 years old, maybe, to Rabbi Sachs, and therefore to Rabbi Wein and to me. And she had just decided to become an Orthodox Jew. And she had a story. So she wanted to tell Rabbi Sachs the story. She was looking for a way to tell Rabbi Sachs the story. So she came in, and the story was this, that she was vacationing with her three friends on the Indian Ocean, I think it was. And that tsunami was out of the blue. Just nobody was expecting it. I don't even know if there were warnings, but even if there would be warnings and you're on the beach, you don't take them so seriously. It's going to be a wave. And completely knocked out. I think she was on the porch of the hotel they were staying at. And within a couple of seconds, she's in the water, has no idea what's going on, complete chaos. And she couldn't pick her head. This is the story she told. She couldn't pick her head up above the water because of the debris that was on top of the water. And every time she tried to pick her head up for air, she like had a piece of wood or something, some kind of a plank. And we all, I mean, if you're old enough to remember the whole story there, I mean, we heard 100 stories, 1,000 stories about, and a lot of these people died, and she couldn't breathe. And she shared that under the water, she didn't know how to, she didn't know whether she was going to live, but she didn't know how to even try to get help. She couldn't get up above the water. That she was able to notice, this is, I'm sure, this seconds we're talking about. She noticed a break in the debris that she couldn't get through, but she managed to pick her hand up above the debris. And she picked her hand up. That's what she did. She picked her hand up. That's the whole story. And somehow or another, some rescue person saw her hand and pulled her out and saved her life. And she said to herself, a young girl, she said to herself, she might have been from Australia. I don't remember where she was from. But she said to herself that this is what it is when you don't know what to do and you're out of solutions and you're out of options. So you pick your hand up and God helps you. Just pick your hand up. And over a very short time, she realized that she needs to pray more. So she prayed more. She prayed like this. How she prayed. right hand up in the air. And she did a demonstration for us. Rabbi Wein, Rabbi Sachs did a demonstration. She said, so this is how I pray. She even like showed how she bows down. And but not only when she's like praying, she started going to shul and stuff, but not only when she's praying, but whenever she just gets stuck in the last few weeks, she picks up her hand and Hashem helps her, pulls her hand, recovery. And this is a story from, what do we say, 2005, popped in my head in the car. Like there's like when do you pick your hand up? Like in school, you're in school, you want to say something, you want to stand up for the whole group, raise your hand. Somebody, if I would say right now, who's interested in L'chaim, if you are, you raise your hand, Like what happens when you raise your hand is you kind of like make yourself into you as an individual, and you say, here I am, like you're underwater. Nobody should ever have this experience, but we all have our experiences, everybody. And you don't have to literally pick up your hand, but when you're stuck, you just have to kind of like individualize yourself, sort of get in touch, and you reach out and hi, I'm here. I need po. And help comes. So that's a story that came to mind. B'eShvat. There's so many things with B'eShvat. If I was a big Kabbalist, even though I wrote this book, Spheros, thank you for bringing it. And it's a lot of Kabbalah there, but I'm not a Makubal really. Only insofar as the practical, I don't mean practical like how to do things Kabbalistically. I mean the practical inspiration and meaning it gives to some mitzvahs that you do. Sometimes, if you're davening in shul and you walk 3 steps back from Shemona Esrei, you walk 3 steps up because you were brought up that way, but you ask yourself, like, why am I walking back 3 steps? So why am I walking up 4? Why not 2 steps? Why not 6 steps? Why not no steps? Like, what am I even doing here? But then all of a sudden you learn that walking back 3 steps, so that's your 6th spheros. And then you come right back in front of Hashem. So it's 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, and then you're standing in front of Hashem. You're right in front of the 7th sphere, which is where the Shekhinah lies. So, like all of a sudden, everything has meaning. You wake up in the morning, you wash your hands, everything all the way through. It's all. If you don't know the secret, Kabbalah is called the secret, right? If you don't know the secret, so then you're missing the experience. You're just doing it like a monkey. Instead of doing it because so it's really like the background under the hood, the under the hood of B'eShvat is very complicated. If you look in the books of the Kabbalists, the stuff they have to, the special yehiratzos that you can say over a pineapple, or particularly the 7 fruit of Eretz Yisrael. And it's just like every single thing is like a very deep thing. So I don't know. I don't know that stuff. But I think that the thread that goes through everybody who talks about B'eShvat, that this is a B'eShvat Seder. So I think the thread that goes through everything is the idea, and catch me on this because this is the word, renewal. Like when you're looking at something like a star fruit or something like that, like okay, that's pretty miraculous. A star fruit, it's interesting that it comes out in that shape and it's pretty, and you cut it like this and all of a sudden it looks like a star and all that. It's beautiful, but I don't think it maybe has the nutritious stuff to it. I don't know. I don't think that's also what we're getting so excited about. What's fascinating about is that this fruit, you're going to eat it, there's going to be another fruit, and the tree is going to grow more and it's going to stop growing, and then it's going to grow more, and it renews itself. When you look at not just the whole agricultural reality of the world, but here's a little Kabbalah over here. Everything renews itself every single second of the day. Not just cucumbers, people, for instance. So don't they say that? I'm not a scientist, but don't they talk about like how the cells of your body or your skin like renew itself every something 24 hours or something, like you're like a new person? But one thing's for sure, I mean, one thing I know is that the neshama, it renews itself. So it goes like this, that when you wake up in the morning, and the first thing you do when you open your eyes is you celebrate the fact and give thanks for the fact that I was renewed. Here I am again. And it's fascinating. This, by the way, by design, doesn't have God's name in it because he didn't even wash Nagelwasser, like it's like your bed, it's not the right place to pray per se. It's not a prayer. It's thank you. I'm alive. But look at so when you wake up in the morning, it's a nice day. Just by virtue of the fact that you woke up in the morning. So you say, Moda ani lefanecha. Thank you. Moda is the same word as Toda. Moda ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Shechzarta B'eShvat. You gave me back in the Shabbat. How do I know you gave me back in the Shabbat? Because I'm here, I'm talking, my eyes are open, even if you can't get out of bed, but you're alive, yeah. How great is your faith? Which is a sentence that makes no sense at all. Think about it for a second, that how great is your faith? I mean, we're talking to God. So what does it mean? How great is your faith? Simple. Pshat. What do you say, Shmuel? How great is
faith in us?
Our Hashem's faith in us. In other words, the very fact that you gave me back my neshama means you believe in me. Well, yeah, and let's take it out of the kind of like believe in me New Age thing, but very simple. No, I don't mean it. I'm just saying. I'm saying it means that there's a reason why I woke up this morning. Just like there was a reason that I was born. But the chap here is that not only was I born, but I'm born and reborn and reborn and reborn. And when you get to be sort of my age multiple times a day, should be really saying modality, like you doze here, you doze there. And every time, Shechzarta B'eShvat, Bechemla, Rabba, and Manasecha. Like, it's not just like you were kind to me and you gave me back life. It's more than you were kind. It means, and it's not even just, I think, that you believe in me. I think what it means to say is I have something I'm supposed to be doing here today. Maybe it's a micro part of the whole big story of my life. But, like it says in Pirkei Avos that everybody who is created has a particular purpose that nobody in the history of the world has ever had. And if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. There's a certain contribution that only you can make, Rabbi Manasecha. And maybe I didn't do it yesterday because I wasn't up to it, but you give me another day or another day. And then every day has its particular purpose. So wouldn't it be great, like, talk about renewal? Like, I want to leave the cucumbers or the starfish and just look at that and say that's where we see renewal, but we should see it more in ourselves, which is an unbelievable renewal. According to the Nefesh HaChaim, those kind of svarim, every second, I don't even know how to measure it, but every second where the world is being renewed. Just because this was here a minute ago and it's still here and it looks the same, it doesn't mean it's just the way God created it, that it does us a favor that that everything stays the same pretty much, unless the sea splits or something. But everything it's that's called teva, but everything that God created, he created it in a way that it looks exactly like it was here the whole time. But it's false because what's happening is it's created, recreated, recreated all the time. And so therefore nothing can ever be taken for granted. And you can't assume that just because something is here yesterday, it's here today. And it gives us a whole new insight into a miracle, because a miracle is not, like what's a miracle? A miracle is just like it didn't happen the same way as it did yesterday. We should all be very happy the miracles don't happen that way all the time, because like imagine you take a walk in the park and the river's going the wrong way or the trees start dancing or something. We would go nuts. There would be no way to the way it's designed is that things stay the same. Have a, when you talk about a walk in nature, a nature walk, that's like one of the most beautiful things to do. No miracles, no open miracles. But it's a nature walk. It's so calming because everything is the same. You can rely on the fact the sun's going to rise and the sun's going to go down, that the river is going to go this way, so that's the renewal. That's the modality. And let me say, let me just share with you a little bit about tefillah, if I may. That something that really just came to recently. Maybe for the rabbis it's the obvious. Maybe it wasn't obvious. The you, pretty much the first thing you say after Moda'ani is Asher Yotzar. So those that don't know that you say Asher Yotzar, after you go to the bathroom, or you say Asher Yotzar, thanking God for the capacity to go to the bathroom. It's a much bigger bracha than that. I mean, being able to eliminate all that is fantastic, but it's the bracha is about every part of my body and the fact that it works. The kavim, chalulim. My heart is pumping. The blood's going through my veins. My kidney is filtering, and my liver is doing its thing. And that's what we're talking about. Those are the kavim, chalulim, and without that, it's not just like, oh, I'm alive. There's a very, very complex, serious mechanism that's working. That's the first thing we do is we say bracha to thank God for the fact that not just we woke up, but we're lucky enough to wake up in a way that everything or almost everything is working. So that's the Asher Yotzar. Read the words, and this is such an important bracha that we make it multiple times a day. It's unusual that a bracha. It's so important to realize the miracle of not just health, but the biology, the very complex biology of what we are and who and why this works. Like, so I hear to B'eShvat, just take the moment to just imagine like you could right now be hearing your heartbeat and your blood flowing and your kidney filtering and your liver doing whatever it does and your brain that's wild, that's wild. It's great that I can talk, I can see. I mean, these are amazing, amazing things. You can even smell, um, things that we're used to, but we're only used to because that's the way it's nature. It's like a nature walk. We're used to it. Okay, obviously, like if all of a sudden we'd wake up, God forbid, we couldn't see in one eye. You're like, oh my gosh, call an ambulance or something. But it's each part of that is a miracle. That's the first blessing that we say. Interesting. Second blessing we say is right after that. If you do this correctly, al pi halacha. The second thing we say is Elikai neshama shenosata bi tahorihi. We talk about our neshama. That means first thing we say is thank you, God, for giving me a functional body. Second thing we say is thank you, God, for putting this neshama into this body that you just gave me back. So it's like another renewal. So there's two things happening here. It's the first thing you're Jewish. The first thing you do in the morning, if you don't want to use the words, use your own words. But the first part of our day, first few minutes of our day, is my body's working, my soul's working, and then if you read the prayer. It's just amazing how it was composed. Ata Varasa, Ata Yitzarta, Ata Nefachta Bi, right? Familiar with the Ata Barasa, you created it. Ata Yitzarta, you created it. Ata Nefachta Bi, all different languages you blew. What that is the in Kabbalah. There's four worlds. The world of Atzilus, where our neshama was as overnight and while we're sleeping, and then Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Ata Barasa. Let's talk about our neshama came down through the world of Bria. Ata Yitzarta came through the world of Yitzira. Ata Nefachta Bi, just like God blew into the nostrils of Adam and animated him, made him alive. This is what's happening. So that whole process of Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, that's happening right now. That's what our Elokai Neshama is. So we got our body, we got our soul, and now the prayer is, read it inside. Can you make this work now, this marriage of body and soul? Can you make it that I can be in touch with the neshama that I have and be able to use the body that you gave me? It's not going to last forever. And help me or allow me to have the wisdom and to have the insight and the spirituality. I think this is what spirituality is, to be able to understand what I'm supposed to do today. So in order for that to happen, we say these words to God, like make my neshama and my body, make that all work together. I want it to work together. But let me get more specific. Kayla, I'm giving you the job of telling me when I should stop talking because
Keep going.
So far so good. Yeah, no, I don't have a watch.
You're good.
I want to share with you a Gemara. This Gemara should be very well known, but it's not. It should be well known. The Gemara is in Brachos Chavches. And the Gemara has a story where it says that one of the great, this is what we're talking about now, like the Gemara, I'm sure you've all been involved with the Gemaras. The Gemara has the Mishnah, which is what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote, and that's what the whole Talmud Bavli is based on, the Mishnah. And then there's all kinds of opinions and arguments about, what did he mean, or what is our Masorah, and how do we get to where we are? And then at the end of all that, at the end of this discussion, this 550-year discussion, at the end of the whole discussion, you have Abaye and Rava. Abaye and Rava were two yeshivas, Yeshiva of Abaye, Yeshiva of Rava. They knew each other all their life, Abaye and Rava, but they had different ways of learning. And at the end of the whole Talmudic discussion that goes through every subject, you always have Abaye and Rava kind of discussing and even arguing, debating how it should be. Like, what should we do? Okay, all this controversy, all the different confusing Masorahs. Like today it's a little easier. We have like a Shulchan Aruch, but that time there was no Shulchan Aruch. So it was Abaye and Rava. The school of Abaye did it one way, just like you had before that. With Hillel and Shammai, had Abaye and Rava. So the Gemara Brachos tells the story that the generation, one like a little bit older than Abaye and Rava. Abaye was a name, Rava was a name. Neither one of them was their real name, but that's what we called it. By the way, they argued 482 times in the Talmud Bavli. I don't know what that's like a gematria, but it was 482 times. Abaye and Rava argued. That's a lot. That's a lot of arguments. Each one of them, if you'll go to any yeshiva, any kind of yarmulke, any kind of yeshiva, they're discussing the 482 arguments of Rava and Abaye. That's the whole thing. That one. What? He was arguing. Give me that, What's that all about? So I'll explain it. So where it says that Abaye and Rava went to the same school. They went to Cheder together. And the teacher was called Rabba. Not Rava, but Rabba. Reish Beis Hey. Rabba was a master educator, but his job was to teach kids. Rabba was their job. He was a big guddle, but his job was to teach kids. And in the classroom, he was teaching Abaye and Rava, maybe others, but the Gemara talks about Abaye and Rava. So the Gemara tells a story that Rabba was teaching the laws of who can count in a mezuzah, like when you say Rabba Taina Barech, who can count? It's become somehow like a controversial, you count men, you count women. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, halachically, I'm not the rabbis are here. Just you can count anybody, except the Gemara says there's one qualification besides for being Jewish. There's one qualification that you absolutely need according to everybody, and that is that you have to know to who you are saying a bracha to. You have to understand that there's a God in the world, and that's who. And when you say Rabbi Taina, okay, let's say a bracha together, and the 3 people answer, 10 people answer, whatever it is. That in order to get involved in this community of benchers. So the way to do that, the way to get involved in that, to be counted, you have to know Lemi Mezamnim, like who are we talking to? So if you understand God, so you're in. If you don't understand God, so then what are you benching for? The whole thing is to thank God, but you got to know what you're doing. So here's Rabba, the teacher. Rava Abaye are in the classroom, and he says to the boys who became the major rabbanim of the generation, he says, Lemi Mezamnim, do you know? So Rashi explains they were young, so he wanted to know what age. He was trying to figure out what age. Maybe they were 9, 8. What age can you already get involved with the mezuzah? So he says, Lemi Mezamnim. So where it says like this, that Rava, they both said together to God. They both understood. Okay, and where is God? He asked them. And here you have, wow, I wish I had teachers like this. And where is God? He said to them. So Rava achve l'talale dekara. Like this. Remember that girl? He points to the ceiling. And he says, God, God. Probably what most of us might do. God. Abaye, his little kid Haber there, he gets out of his seat. He goes outside of their little place there, and he points to the sky. So Rava achve l'talale dekara, he pointed to the beams of the roof, and Abaye pointed to the Shemayim, to the sky. Significant or not significant? So, what are they? So, Rabbah said the following. This was his commentary to the Gemara. He said that it's clear to me that these 2 will both become teachers in Israel, the greatest teachers in Israel. You almost can't turn a page of the Gemara without a Bible. He said, but they're going to be completely different. He saw, and I need to. This is the master teacher, and I need to teach them differently. It's different. Now, I think today, like most, is there a principal here in the room? I don't want to offend anybody. What?
If we only had this teachers there.
If we had this teacher,
Exactly.
because if I was a teacher, I'd probably say, like, what are you making a big deal about this? Or I would say that, he's getting out of seat, he's going outside, pointing this guy, maybe has ADD. Maybe, let's medicate him,
Just triggered the whole room.
Okay. No, so look, those of you that are privileged to have kids, ask yourself for a minute, like Robin, do I have a Rav or do I have an Abaye? Well, what's the difference? Do I have to pointing to the ceiling, or is it going outside pointing to the sky? Like, and what difference does it make? There's a sefer called Dover Cotton. That's the name of the sefer. It's written today from an author today, contemporary, by the name of Frankel, Zev Frankel. You know who he is? He's a Talmud Chacham in Tel Aviv. Frankel. Yeah, such a thing.
Is he your friend that you have? Okay, sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
He's a Talmud Chacham. He's written probably about 25 svarim. So one of the svarim that he wrote was called Dover Cotton. Little thing. It's sefer. How does it? It's called Dover Cotton. And in this sefer, he takes the 480, whatever it was, arguments between Abaye and Rava, that they're arguing about so many different things: what to do when you find something in the street, what to do when you were robbed, what to do, all kinds of things, spiritual things, davening things. They argue about everything. And he shows how they really all one argument. And they're all one argument. Abaye always holds the same thing, and Rava always holds the same thing. That's what he says. In parentheses, why is it the name of the book Dover Cotton?
It was just
One argument.
It's the words of them when they were kids. Their understanding when they were kids.
Dover Cotton. So I'll tell you what he doesn't say why he called it Dover Cotton. It's supposed to be obvious, I guess. But I asked a few people, why is it called Dover Cotton? I don't know. Why would he call the book Dover Cotton? I mean, the truth is not that they didn't know. They really care what they called it Dover Cotton, whatever. All kinds of names of books. But I'm a publisher, by the way. So my Mosaic Press. That's
Yeah.
right. So
Huge.
like I don't do much there. There's like 16 people working, and they do. I make sure the manuscript is good and kosher, and I come up with the titles,
you came up with questioning the answers.
questioning the answers.
Good one.
That was a good one.
We started reading it together. We're working
Just
on
that.
It's a
good.
good- it's-
The name actually is a good one.
It's a good name, yes.
It's
It's descriptive and yeah. So I name books. That's one of the things that I do a lot. I name books, but so why is it called Dover Cotton? It's just in parentheses. So I'll tell you why it's called Dover Cotton, I think, because the Gemara says in the Sukkah, the Gemara says that Hillel had 80 major Hillel had 80 major students, great rabbis that came from Hillel, and doesn't name all 80. We know most of them, but it says that the biggest of all of his students was Yodas ben Uziel. That was the greatest of his students. Yodas ben Uziel, where I want to say how great he was. When he was learning Torah, if a bird flew over his head, nisraf, when it's a fire, that could be like a nuisance. But
Very impractical.
so maybe it means something. Yeah, maybe it means something deeper. It's interesting because if somebody like needs a shidduch, so you go to the grave of Yodas ben Uziel and you daven. So like nobody knows why. There's like so many great people that are buried in Israel. Why do you go to Yodas ben Uziel? So Amuka, that's Yodas ben Uziel. And it has something to do with the bird getting burnt out. Like, okay, I'm just giving you something to think about. But so that was the biggest. The smallest of his students was Yochanan ben Zakkai, Yochanan ben Zakkai was one of the greatest leaders of all times. That was the smallest student of Hillel. He negotiated with Vespasian, the Roman. He was the first lad for peace deal in Jewish history because he said, he told us the Romans, you're going to conquer, take Jerusalem. And this is not a political discussion, but take Jerusalem, take the Beis Hamikdash, take everything, just give me Yavne. Yavne is a little tiny city next to Ashdod. Nothing, but that's where his yeshiva was. He said, just leave me the Chachamim because they will perpetuate Torah again. It's not about buildings, and it's not about so that was the first. We were just talking like, what are you supposed to do? Like release terrorists and this is what it's all about. Like in other words, right now you save what you could save. That's the answer to that question. You save what you could save, and you don't. look so much to the future. So that's Rabbi Yaacov ben Zakkai. So Gemara says he was the smallest of the students of Hillel, smallest of the students, the back of the class. And so the Gemara goes through a list. We're in front of me. The Gemara goes through a list of what Yochanan ben Zakkai was able to do. He knew every part of the Ma'aser Merkava. He knew Kabbalah. He knew all of Halacha. He knew how to understand what birds wanted when they were chirping. He knew how to understand what the winds meant. In other words, how is this going to be inclement weather? Or is it going to be like he understood the winds? He was able to understand people's so many things. Like he knew everything. There was a small student, and the Gemara says, and also he knew. Here's the thing. Also, he was familiar with every davar gadol and every davar katan. So the Gemara says, what does that mean? Like after all the whole list of things they knew, he also knew davar gadol, davar katan. Davar gadol. The Gemara says, what does that mean? He knew davar gadol. He was very familiar with the famous Yecheskel's prophecy of the Ma'aser Merkava. That's a davar gadol. He understood what none of us understand. The Ma'aser Merkava is. Like that's like that's what like the no-go zone of Tanakh. It shouldn't be, but it isn't. I just recently opened up a Yecheskel art scroll. I don't have anything against art scroll. When it came to the translate, when it comes to the Ma'aser Merkava, skips it.
Really?
Yeah.
We should fix that.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No go. Like you don't get involved. Like,
You probably should know both.
yeah.
That's the chariots by the river?
Yeah, the chariots by the river. No, but it gives like a basic idea, and it doesn't give you the regular art scroll stuff, But so that's davar gadol. What's davar katan? What's the davar katan that he knew? You remember? He knew. Yochanan ben Zakkai knew. We're talking about now 400 years in advance. He knew Kol Havayas to Abaye v'Rava. He knew everything that Abaye and Rava were going to argue about. By Rava were not even thought yet. Much later in history. But he knew, meaning he understood in his mind, you can look at it this way, you can look at it that way, like you can look at it like Abaye, you can look at it like Rava, and Kol, as the Gemara calls, Kol Havayas to Abaye v'Rava. That was, besides for everything he knew davar gadol v'davar katan. So the davar katan, the smallest piece of information he had was about everything that Abaye and Rava would ever argue about. Meaning he understood deeply the two sides to every coin and halacha, which is very complex in the essence of the Talmud Bavli. He got it. How in the world that can be called a davar katan is amazing. But one thing I do know, that's why the book is called davar katan. The book is called davar katan because he's talking about how Rava is always saying one way and Abaye is always saying another way. What he doesn't say is what I'm going to say, share here now. And that is, I think it all comes from, he doesn't bring this, it all comes from this question, where is God? One pointed to the ceiling and one outside. I think that's the source of the 480 arguments that they have. Why? Because there are those, and neither one of these are bad, but there's two ways. One way is the sort of, let me put this in words that at least I know how to express. Like one of them is a sort of maybe a scientific, mathematical, in the box has to be proven. If it's not proven, it's not, you don't know if it's right. One way of looking at everything in life, like I want science. Give me good science. Analytical. I'm sure Abaye was analytical, but what the idea is, I think that and by the way, I have to say I looked at as many commentaries as I can on this Gemara. I couldn't find anybody explain this argument of Abaye and Rava, where is God? Amazing question. In the house or out of the house? Something like that. So what happens is that is there some kind of a limit to our understanding, or is there permission to go out of that house and go outside and look at the infinity? Look at the infinity.
Could it be he was just too lazy to go outside and they were?
No, I'll tell you why this can't be, because the Gemara wouldn't tell that story. Here's what Rob's comment was.
Where does it say what's why he chose to say that
No.
ceiling wall?
No. He said this, there's a good B'eShvat thing. He said they're both Butsita Kadisha, Rashi says they're all both cute little pumpkins. That's what he called them. Called them pumpkins. Butsita is pumpkins. Rashi says Dalas. They're two pumpkins, but they're going to grow into these very, very big trees, and they're going to be different. So Rabba is not saying what you're saying, he's saying that they're going to be different. He saw this, whether we understand it or not, he saw this in the fact that one went outside and one didn't go outside. When you go outside, that's your creative ability to, the sky's the limit. The sky the limit means there is no limit. So the words mean sky's the limit. Or, look, this is our tradition. This is the way the house is built, and God is in this house. We don't have to decide, who was right and who was wrong, because it was already decided they're both right, in a way. They're both right. Maybe good idea to decide where what we would do.
Which is your natia.
What's your natia? I don't want to get in cliche and talk about it in the box, out of the box, because that's just a small part of it. It's just, you look at the sky, or do you look at the ceiling? Like, is it all in here? And interesting, if you look at, in my opinion, thank you, and all the arguments of Rav and Abaya, I'm not going to give a 12-hour shear now, but I have actually examined this. Even based on this book called Never Cutting, where it's the only one I ever found, the second one that I found that actually analyzes all of Rav and Abaya, like analyzes each thing and shows how they're together. Many examples of this, but what it means is that there's two different ways to learn Torah, but more important, there's two different ways to see where is God. I want to ask you to think about it for a minute. Like, where's God? Like, funny question. Like, what's the difference where God is? Not a physical.
Fine.
I don't think it means like a lot of times we ask ourselves, like, where's God? And where's God? Like, a lot of times things happen in life. You say, where's God? It's not so simple. I live in Israel, like, I was saying, I just want to say one little bit of, you read the news like I read the news. I don't have any inside information of what's going on in Israel. But I do have this. I'm the rabbi of a pretty big shul. And in that shul, there's at any given time 12, 15 people in the Miluim. And Miluim, it works like that's not your mandatory savat when you're 18, 19. 20, it's talking about people that were specially trained in whatever operations they are. Usually has to do with killing people. And you get called back when there's a war. That's the Miluim. And these guys are when they come back, and I talk to them, they were traumatized almost every one of them, because those are special operations people. We hear about Miluim, not to mention the fact that most of them, like, if they don't go for, they'll take the weekends off. Some of them have wife and kids, at home that sees them every 4 months, every 5 months. So imagine like, we all talk about the terrible trauma of the hostages. We say prayers for them, and I'm sure you do, usually every single day. Say Tehillim, but I tell you, these people need Tehillim also. They're more traumatized. A neighbor of mine last night, this afternoon, Mixed up my days. He killed himself.
Oh.
40-year-old guy, and have guns. I mean, he shot himself in sleepy B'eShvat, where this kind of stuff never happens. B'eShvat feels, at least in their minds, that they're protected from the whole. Like it's nothing to do with B'eShvat. There's a hill between us and Gaza. They say things like that. I mean, you talk about the trauma. I mean, who knows how many people I happen to know how many people this guy had to be in gun battles with, how many of his friends died at his side. He was in a building that fell down on everybody. He survived. How many people he had to kill until he killed himself? So there's a trauma of non-hostages. Like we're talking about a population that is mothers, their husbands are away, children, their fathers away. This is like the stories you read about war, World War II, World War One, off to war. That's what it is. And it's a real thing. It's a real thing, and we got to pray for them also, say Tehillim for them also, which we do. We say Tehillim for the Chayalim, but it's very, very specific. But when I the reason I brought that up is because we're talking for your name, first name. So talking about hostages, you get hostages back, and you give away terrorists. Does this make any sense? Everybody knows. Nobody knows how to answer that question really. But I can tell you this, a very interesting thing. It's an argument Rav and Abaya. It's an argument Rav and Abaya in B'eShvat. Rav says, you got somebody right in front of you, you got to save them. Terrorists are going to kill somebody, it's going to be a couple of weeks, until, right now you have a person needs to be saved. Don't think. Don't go outside. Abaye says, whoa, let's think about the big picture here. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. How do you know what's right and what's wrong here? Does anybody know? Rav and Abaye argued about it. And that's where the Talmud ends. Then you need already a Rambam or something to tell you what we're supposed to do. The halacha generally, interestingly, the halacha is always like Shmuel. Not like I'm sorry, the halacha is like Rava, not like Abaye.
Rava
was in the house
in
guy.
the house.
It's in
That's
front
the
of you,
halacha.
the person in front of you.
Yeah, that's the halacha. And every one of those cases where the halacha, what the question is what the halacha is, it could be there's somebody, a million different subjects, but halacha is like Rava, except for Yud Ayin Lamed Chaf Gimel Mem Yal Kagavs, 7 cases basically that the halacha is like Abaye.
Which one is the hostages?
Rava. Everything's Rava. Every halacha is possible. So, maybe you're what? Maybe we're all thinking that, well, I'm an out of the box type of person, and that's definitely the better way. Not the better way. It's very obvious to me why, because halacha requires scientific thinking. It requires some boundaries, and it requires parameters. And if you're a halachic analyst, like posek around, you need to think. You don't think out of the box. You think in the box. Unless somebody's a lot of trouble, then you got to come up with some kind of out of the box solution and hope that you can get it into the box. Caleb does this all the time, try to get it in. But if it's not in the box, it's out of the box. So it's interesting that except for a few cases, usually das. You know what that? It doesn't make a difference. I don't want to give a Talmudic shear here, but a few cases. Look into it. Yal. The abbreviation is Yal Kagam Yud Ayin Lamed of Gimel Mem. That was known at the end of the Gemara. But there's these cases that we pass like Abaye. Otherwise, always goes like Rava, and Rava was the one that pointed to the ceiling, and that's the halacha almost in every case. And Abaye is the one that went outside, and we can't make halacha based on going outside. Doesn't mean, by the way, just want to point something out. It doesn't mean that that you should, like if your child, let's say, is like the outside type, that you should teach him to be the inside type. That's not what it means. What it means is he should not be a decisor in Jewish law. He should rather be the poet of Israel. He should rather be the mashpia. A lot of the great mashpia that we met in life were not ravas. They were outside all the way. Think about it.
Like two different personalities.
Right,
Or
and-
Rosh Hashanah, Zabaya, or so types.
Exactly, and each person, I mean, don't say like a big category, but I'll just give you an example of a big, like if Rava is doing, if you're a Rava soul and you're doing Abaye stuff, you are wrong. You can't say Modani in the morning. So the thing is, this is what I mean by like raising your hand. You're raising your hand, there's a whole class here raising my hand. Like I have to be within halacha, of course, within Torah, but I have to decide what I'm going to do in life and today. So that's the essence of renewal. I'm going to wind down. I think there must be like an energy from Shemayim to B'eShvat to concentrate, like focus on the idea that my great grandfather ate apples, and so will Bezras Hashem, my great grandchildren eat apples, and it might even be the same tree, which falls. It's like so interesting about coming from Israel to America. I mean, I'm born here. I'm an American, but I'm living in Israel for many years, thank God. And I hope I never live here. I love you all. Jews, it's the beginning of my nerves. Like we should at least have some place in our heart thinking about Eretz Israel, and following the historical, being part of the historical cycle, and but one of the things which is very stark as soon as like you get off the plane, the first thing is it's cold.
Crazy.
Yeah. But whether it doesn't get lower than 50 degrees ever, but it's cold. But then you start driving towards, let's say, Muncie, which is where I was going. Trees, beautiful trees, but they're not beautiful because everything fell off. There's no green. There's some evergreens, but mostly, it's not beautiful that way. It's not. But here's the beautiful thing, that a couple of weeks around, starting now to B'eShvat, the sap goes through and the bounty comes out and it begins to turn green again. And you look at the tree and you say, I thought you were dead. Like if you came from Israel, you never saw such a thing. I don't know why, but leaves don't fall off in Israel. Mara?
Yeah, never knows.
I don't know, you have the shkedi.
There's no fall. No, it's parachat, but nothing fell. You don't rake the leaves.
Right.
Doesn't happen. What?
Sounds nice. You
Some
don't
say
have
it.
to break leaves. It's a good money saver.
Yeah, or shovel snow. But it goes together. Here's what I'm not talking about the weather here.
That's
What
how
I'm-
you're gonna convince everyone to move to Israel. You don't have to break the leaves, you don't have to shovel the snow.
have to learn something from here, and that is that Tu B'eShvat is like wrongly placed on the Jewish calendar because nothing is blossoming. It's winter. It's on the rose it says be careful. Ice. What's blossoming? Ashkedi Yaporach Hadefa. Where but you know what? Inside, that's what's happening. The sap is beginning to rise, and we don't even see it. That's the message. The message is that when things seem so dark and the leaves all fell down and it seems so dead and it seems so what's really happening is that there's a whole renewal taking place. So you take the fruit and you look at the fruit, and then that fruit should be a mirror into our own soul to look at who we are and say Moda'ani by understanding that I was sleeping like sometimes people sleep, you could take them for dead. but they're not dead. They're being refreshed. They're being refreshed. They're being there's new stuff coming up. And then you say Elokai Neshama. Well, same thing is true with my Neshama. And then we say the brachos, thanking God for all the different things. Oh, look, wow, I can walk, I can see, all those brachos, beautiful. But the main gist of the whole story is renewal. The whole gist of it is that when we thought that we were like nafshi ka'afar lakoltia, like, I was like, oh my gosh, just shut off the alarm. I can't get up even. No, you were refreshed now. And I think this is what I want to leave you with. Abaya and Rava. Abaya and Rava had to be individuals that they were. And it was the master teacher, Rabbah, who was able to say, listen, you, at a young age, you go this way, you go that way. Rava, you're going to be the halachic person. Abaya, you're going to bring that out of Rava, but what's going to happen is you're going to create the song of Israel. You're going to be able to look at it. So beautiful. Once in a while, we go with Abaya, but usually with Rava. But that's the point being that the individual has to be, because Rava and Abaya are two categories, but there are millions of them. As much as there's people and as much as there's days, there's millions of categories. And here's my B'eShvat suggestion, Avoda. Figure out who we are. Just figure out who we are. It's so important. Figure out who your children are, or help them figure out who they are. It's so important, because otherwise you can miss the boat just doing what everybody else is doing. And I hope I'm not doing any damage, but I'm saying what I'm thinking. Just don't worry what everybody else is doing. You stay a good Jew. Your purpose in life is to worship Hashem, keep the halacha that Rava told us are the halachas, but then you've got to make your contribution. And if everybody would make their contribution, imagine what the world would look like. Imagine what the communities would look like. Imagine what our families would look like. We're afraid to do this. We're afraid to do this with our own kids. Don't step, just don't be different. Don't be different. But you know what? I just must say this, here's something that I picked up over the last number of years. You have the privilege of seeing people as kids and then seeing them as grown-ups. So you got to be a certain age to be able to see the whole thing. Those kids, I'm telling you, this is an interesting thing. I tell this to parents all the time also that the kids are like that in school, and they're so awkward and they got weird personalities, and everybody's everybody's like making fun of them. Those end up being the best people. I see it over and over and over again. I don't know why it is. I'm not going to give a psychological analysis to it. I have some ideas. You probably have ideas too, but they end up being the best people. It's like Reb Tzadok says, like if you want to find somebody who gives a lot of tzedakah, find somebody who likes to eat a lot. They're always giving like it's those guys, and those are the ones that are giving a lot of tzedakah, But it's like respect the neshamas of our children. Respect God by respecting the neshamas of our children. Respect ourselves. You're setting up a different kind of a neshama, and don't be afraid. Because if we're afraid, we're not going to make that contribution. I'm not even talking about what's going to happen in the next world, but in this world, you're not going to make the contribution. So let me give my bracha. That first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Rabbi. I'm particularly honored. Shmuel didn't have any choice, but thank you very much. And I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here, and happy to be going back to Eretz Yisrael at the beginning of the week. But let me just leave you with these thoughts, and with the blessing that our prayers should all be fulfilled for us, for our children, and for everybody around us. That everybody should become completely what they're meant to be in this world. Here's the bracha. This is my final sentence. Where it says, "Talmidei Chachamim," big scholars, but they used to leave each other. They used to bless each other. Like this one's going here, that one's going there. They used to bless each other. Where it says brachos, my Haber-Goldstein, how do they bless each other? Curious, how did they bless each other? You should be gesund. You should have nachas. They lost them like this. They said, Olamcha tira b'chayecha. You should be privileged to see your world happen in your life. That's how they blessed each other. This was the main thing. You should get to do your tachlis. You should get to, your world should be completed. Your purpose of this world should be relevant. Should be relevant. So that's my blessing to everybody. Olam chatira b'chayecha. Thank you very much for listening.
Go ahead. Thanks.